For decades, the Golden Bear was one of the most famous music venues in Southern California, hosting everybody from Janis Joplin to Linda Ronstadt to Peter Gabriel. It was torn down in 1986, and none of it remains today except for these bricks that people collect. So why am I standing in a city yard in Huntington Beach? Maybe a piece of it still remains. I'll tell you about it in just a minute. I'm Chris Epton. I'm a writer and a storyteller, the author of several books and many articles about Huntington Beach. And what I like best is uncovering history that you may not be familiar with. This is Hidden Huntington Beach. Carol Babaraki Kirby, Chuck Babaraki, along with the late Rick Babaraki, were the last owners of the Golden Bear. They ran the club from 1974 until it closed in 1986. Their stories, along with the many artifacts that Carol has kept, are legendary. Carol and Chuck, first of all, thank you for preparing this information and talking about the Golden Bear. What year did you take over the Golden Bear?
Well, it was 1974. Rick and I had, the previous year, tried to make the standard hippie pilgrimage to India. And
Your brother?
My brother and I, yeah. And when we came back, we were looking to open a business in a beach town selling souvlaki. And we asked around to try and find who owned the dirt lot between the Golden Bear and the building next door, and all anyone could tell us was George the Greek. So we hung out in Huntington Beach until somebody pointed to this gentleman and said, "That's George the Greek." So we went to talk to him about getting the dirt lot, and he said, "It's going to cost way too much money, boys, for you to build a business and meet all the necessary permits." He says, "I have a great idea. Why don't you buy the Golden Bear instead?" He said, "You can knock a hole in the wall of the kitchen and sell souvlaki from the kitchen, and then you will also have a world-famous nightclub." So 2 weeks after George gave us the idea, Rick had found someone to back us and found financing. 2 weeks after we had found that, we signed the papers. 2 weeks after that, we had our first show. 6 weeks from having the concept to actually having our first show.
I'm looking here. I mean, you've got business cards from B.B. King, from the Grateful Dead, from Stevie Ray Vaughan. I mean, you were in touch with a lot of people right out of the gate when you started booking shows, right?
Well, the first summer that we opened on, I think it was May 31st. May 31st, we opened with
Jimmy Witherspoon was our very first act. I remember that. Yeah, mm-hmm. We had a hard time the first year, just it was very booking tough the first
year. We were total neophytes. We had no experience in the music business whatsoever. Right? We got into it by accident.
Well, we know that eventually you get to artists like Peter Gabriel, Linda Ronstadt. Right. What are the first artists that really allow you to begin attracting other artists? What were the first big bookings?
The thing that broke us and broke it open for us was Jerry Garcia. Well, my brother got a phone call, and the person on the phone said, "Are you full of bullshit?" And he says, "No, I'm not. And who are you to ask?" He says, "Well, my name's Zippy, and I'm the road manager for the Jerry Garcia Band, and we heard you're the only club in Southern California that isn't full of bullshit." And that was how they approached us. They wanted a lot of money for a show, 3 times what we had paid anybody so far.
How much would that have been back then?
Probably $5,000. And it was...
We thought it'll make it or break it.
It'll make us or break us. And right after that, after we did the Garcia show, we got all the San Francisco bands, right? We got Taj Mahal, we got
Tower of Power.
Tower of Power. It established our credibility, and it put us back on the footing as a regular nightclub.
What was he like? What do you remember about Garcia at the Golden Bear?
He was so friendly. He was teaching our cook how to play guitar. He gave him guitar lessons.
Really?
Yeah. And
they
very, very personal.
They were nice. They were nice people, but they were definitely of a different culture than we were experienced with. I remember the first show. The audience came in around 7 o'clock. We didn't have an opening act. They didn't want an opening act, and they were supposed to go on stage, by 7:30. And so people came in, right around 7 o'clock, and they kept saying, "Well, we can't go on. Our bass player here, John Kahn, hasn't shown up yet." And so after 10 o'clock, and they haven't gone on for the first show. And this is our first night. And finally, John Kahn shows up, and he's drunk he's totally drunk. He's got Maria Muldaur with him, and she's totally drunk. And he said, "Okay, now we can go on." And he said, "Don't worry. I mean, we'll give everybody a good show." And they continued to play, even though we couldn't sell alcohol after 2 in the morning. They continued to play until 3:30 in the morning to make sure everybody got a good show.
Wow. Yeah. Bob Weir from the Grateful Dead would eventually come down and play. Other legends. Carol, I know for you, Robin Williams was a special one, right?
Yes.
What was it about him that made it so memorable?
He was so personable, and he had me bring a box of hats, and he would do a skit with each hat, And I felt a little connected to him because he would just, talk to everybody in the back room and all the waitresses. And
well, you all sort of developed relationships with the artists, right? We're talking, Tom Waits, Patti Smith, Dave Mason, all of these artists you had to work with, right, to get their shows up and going.
Right.
Who are some of the others that stand out to you when you sit here today?
Oh, Sean Phillips. Sean Phillips was really a unique artist. He was the very first person I knew who owned a personal computer. He had a TRS-80 that he basically did his own itineraries on it and handled all of his own business affairs on a TRS-80. But I remember, as I said, we were inexperienced when we first started doing this, and Sean was doing a sound check, and it was getting real late, and it was just pouring outside. And I let the audience in, and while he was still sound checking, and he came up to me, and he was actually gentle about this. He said, "Chuck," he says, "I know that you're not accustomed to this, but he says, never let any people in during a sound check." And I said, "Well, it was raining out there." He says, "They'll stand in the rain." He said, "Yeah." He said, "If this was any other artist, Chuck," he says, "they'd walk out on you right now." Wow. And he says, "But I'm not going to do that."
I've interviewed a lot of artists over the years as a journalist who played at the Golden Bear, who all have fond memories. Steve Martin told me once about the time where he got all several hundred people up and out of the club, out on Coast Highway to hide behind bushes and then jump out and startle the next person that walked by. You told me earlier he did this a number of times in terms of transporting the audience out to the street, right?
First time he did it, we were totally surprised. We had no idea what was going on. My waitresses came out, and there's nobody in the club, and everybody's left their purses and their jackets and everything sitting there, but there's no one in the club, and they're coming out with trays of drinks, and they're saying, "What happened to the audience?" And that was a little confusing to deal with, but after the first time, we became a little better at it.
What were some other shows or artists that...
I remember Tom Waits. He came in, and we had these big stack of beer cases all in the kitchen, and they were stacked up to the ceiling, and he's behind them, and he's got a smashed hamburger he pulled out of his pocket, and he was eating it. I says, "Tom, we'll make you a fresh hamburger." He says, "No, I'm fine. I'm fine with this one." He asked for, just book me in a little sleazy hotel down the street. He says,
we booked him into the Sheraton, and his agent called up and says, "Tom's not happy with the hotel." And I said, "Well, that's where everybody stays." And he said, it isn't good enough?" And he said, "No." He said, "It's too nice." He says, "Don't you have any place with rats?" Seriously.
So the Sheraton, which is no longer there, that was sort of the typical hotel.
All the bands stayed.
Interesting. Interesting. Well, again, you've got a whole roll of old tickets here. I've been in search of artifacts, actual pieces of the Golden Bear. That's part of my mission in this episode, is to try and track things down. Carol, I know that you saved some really key pieces which we're going to look at. You actually have some of the chairs from the Golden Bear. You've got one of the original doorknobs. You've got a little kind of tiki mask that hung in the interior of the Golden Bear. You've even got, there was a policy, I guess, when a band would play. What was the thing where you would trade t-shirts with them?
Yeah, we'd give them a Golden Bear t-shirt, and they'd give us the
one
band
of theirs,
t-shirt.
yeah.
So you've got, t-shirts in there from bands that are almost 50 years old that you would have swapped for a Golden Bear shirt.
Right. I also have your silk jacket that only you and Rick had.
Yeah, well, that was a gift from the staff one year. That was a Christmas gift, yeah.
Yeah, I remember that, yeah.
And then upstairs here in your home in Huntington Beach, you've got 2 Golden Bear rooms that have got all kinds of artifacts. Can we go up and look over some of those artifacts now?
Sure.
All right, why don't we'll kind of wander up, look at some of the things on the way upstairs, and then resume our conversation in the Golden Bear rooms, okay? Well, Carol, this really is your Golden Bear shrine upstairs in your home. You've got obviously hundreds of rare photographs, original posters. It's an incredible room. One name that jumps out, there's an Eric Burden poster over there that I'm seeing. Chuck, what happened the night he played?
Well, this was before they had wireless mics. He had a long microphone cord, and he decided he would run across the tables from the stage, run across the tables out to the middle of the room, and when he did so, the table collapsed underneath him. He fell, knocked 2 people over, drinks went flying. He never stopped singing. He got back up on his feet, ran back across the tables and onto the stage without ever missing a beat.
Carol, when the Golden Bear closed in 1986, did you have any idea when you were saving all of this stuff that you were essentially creating a Golden Bear museum in your own home?
Right, a little museum.
Did you think about that back then?
Yeah,
I mean, were
well,
you trying
hopefully
to...
someday that we'd be able to put them in a small museum, but for now, this is where they are.
In this room is really where you get the sense of just what the scope of performers were. On this one wall alone, Average White Band, Don McLean, Dave Mason, Kenny Rankin, Tower of Power, Leon Redbone. I mean, it just goes on and on. David Crosby, you were telling me how Joni Mitchell and Stephen Stills were there the night that Crosby played, and that was kind of crazy as well. So artists would attract other artists to come watch them, right?
Positively. Yeah.
And on your wall, you've got photos of all the different performers, including Stephen Stills, Steve Martin. I mean, I love the fact that people were in a kind of smartphone age. People still took a lot of pictures. One of my favorite images, you've got it up on the wall, was the last show in 1986. Robin Trower was the final concert at the Golden Bear. And there's this incredible image of him near the end of the show. You can see your sound man back then, Roy
Zartman.
Yeah.
With that picture, you can see Roy in the background there, and it really kind of captures a special moment.
Right.
I love that you saved you've saved the keys from the Golden Bear, the key ring that's got all the keys on it, right?
Yeah.
And
for
tell
every
me about
door.
the tiles that used to be by the stage.
Yeah, there's some of the Greek tiles. George had run it the year before we came in. He tried to run it as a Greek restaurant again. And so there were Greek tiles inset in a counter that ran around the stage. And Carol saved some of the tiles.
So you've got some of the tiles, you've got the keys, you've got countless photos and it's like a scrapbook collection that you've got in here. But I think the posters are really special. The posters really...
And these are only part of the posters.
Right, I know you've got books,
there's
things that are just full of
lots
them.
of posters, but these are the ones I grabbed at the end when we were leaving.
Well,
And I even have some bricks on a column outside of the patio.
Golden Bear bricks?
Yeah.
So when I started this episode, I'm holding my own personal Golden Bear brick. I know that's pretty much the piece that most people have, if they have a piece of the brick. You mentioned you've got a couple too. Why don't you show me those right now, and then I'm gonna make my way to a place that I think might have some other pieces of the Golden Bear that are not bricks. So why don't we head out and let's go look at yours.
Sounds good.
All right, Carol, you mentioned that some of these are actual Golden Bear bricks. Do you know which ones?
Yeah, this one and this one.
Wow. It's funny, when they tore the Golden Bear down, bricks are what people collected. I've got one brick, people have others. As I mentioned earlier, it's thought that there aren't many pieces of the Golden Bear left. I've heard a rumor about something that may exist. I'm going to head over to the city yard now, but I want to thank you, Chuck, as well. Thank you for sharing your stories and your memories, Carol, of what it was like to run the Golden Bear, know these amazing artists. It's because of your collection that the legacy, I think, really burns brightly. So thank you, as always, for being so generous, and I will talk to you both soon, okay?
Okay, sounds good.
Sean Crumby, Huntington Beach Director of Public Works, contacted me recently after I reached out to him to ask about any potential pieces of the Golden Bear that might still remain on city property. He said they had discovered something important, and so I couldn't wait to get over there.
So Chris, here are the items that we talked about earlier, the pieces of the Golden Bear.
This is incredible. These are pieces of the Golden Bear. I mean, not just pieces, these are some of the most recognizable pieces of the outer facade of the Golden Bear. This is absolutely remarkable. I'd heard rumors, I've been looking for years, just so you know, and I've heard all kinds of stories and myths and rumors about how there were pieces here at the public yard, city yard, but then they were all thrown out years ago. And again, the stories fly back and forth.
but this proves that the pieces are still here. So first of all, thank you. It's incredible to see. How did this happen that you learned
So
about these?
we're at one of our warehouse facilities for Public Works Department. So after we talked a few weeks ago, yeah, we put out the word to our staff.
So I think we had a manager here at some of our maintenance yards that was a history buff and very, very interested. So I think when this came down in 86 or the late 80s, I think we took the opportunity to keep some of it and store it. And we've gone through multiple generations of people, so it's kind of gotten lost in the shuffle in the back of the warehouse. But we're protecting it and storing it, and hopefully at some point we can display it.
It's amazing because any photo that you see of the Golden Bear, you can pick out these exact pieces. That's what's amazing. I mean, this really is remarkable. Now, you found this morning a photo of or a painting
Yes.
of the Golden Bear.
So on our way over to prepare this morning, we found this at City Hall, and it was an old illustration of the front of the Golden Bear. And the great thing is it does show the pieces of the building or where these came from.
This exact piece is one of these two pieces, or four pieces actually, that we've got here. There are four of these. And then these spires up here, we see two of them, are right here in front of us, which is incredible. I have to tell you, you've got other pieces here as well that I don't know what you know about these, but they don't look to be Golden Bear. Do you know anything about these pieces?
You know, I know that they're valuable, and we went through some effort to save it. So we've been collecting and holding these for, I don't even know how long.
I mean, this looks like it might be 1916, some kind of cornerstone piece. We've got a nameplate, a big nameplate, Olson. I don't know what to say about this. I mean, this actually says Huntington Beach Company on it. This looks like a cornerstone.
It does. It looks very, very old.
If you're familiar with the cornerstone of the 1914 pier at the Surfing Museum, it's a little bit like that, but because it says Huntington Beach Company, it might even predate that. I mean, this is, I have to tell you, this is very overwhelming to have Golden Bear pieces. The Olson and then the time plate there of 1916, but this, I mean, this is remarkable. We need to do some homework on this and figure out exactly what this Huntington Beach Company, because you know, Huntington Beach Company, that's what originally forms in 1903 with Henry Huntington. That's the company that's created to create Huntington Beach and then run the trains down. So if this goes back that far, you know, let's say this, what if this were the original cornerstone of, you know, the first pier? I mean, who knows? So we'll do some homework on this, but listen, I want to thank you. Thank you to you and everybody here at the Public Yard for, you know, playing heads up ball and recognizing that this was here and that we would be interested in it. It's the best kind of hidden Huntington Beach history. It's history you can touch and compare in photos and really bring back some memories. So please thank your team and thank you as well.
Now, this stuff is a treasure, and we're going to keep it.
Excellent.
What an incredible experience today to not just discover hidden pieces of the Golden Bear, but these other remarkable pieces which we'll do further research on and hopefully tell you those stories sooner than later. I want to thank our guests today. If you enjoy Hidden Huntington Beach, I encourage you to join our Facebook group, which is simply called Hidden Huntington Beach. There are thousands of people there who are on a daily basis sharing pictures and stories and videos. It's a lot of fun. Please join us there, and thank you for watching. You can watch these on television, on YouTube, wherever you can find them. Thank you for the support. We'll be back next week with an all-new Hidden Huntington Beach.